Hi, welcome back to an episode of Unpack That. And I wanted to have an episode about dating. And I believe I'll probably have more in the future, some in the past, because it's such a big topic and there's so many different avenues and ways you can talk about it. And so if you don't want to hear an episode about dating and all the things about it, that's okay. You can skip this one. And also, I think I like talking about it as a couples therapist. And so there's just so many things. And I think in a prior episode, I talked about different colored flags and how there's orange flags and red flags and green flags. And so I can touch on it a bit again. How an orange flag is mainly, it's not fully red, obviously. So it's not like something you just cannot do, but it's more like, oh, this is something I should be aware of. So orange flags are mainly that. Red flags are just, no, not good. Green flags, obviously, go, it's good. Like, it's a good thing. And so I know I had an episode or a little segment on that prior. But in this one, I also wanted to focus on dating in general, of how it's really hard finding a partner, but making sure that you're staying true to yourself and what your needs are, what your wants are, and making sure you're not letting any of that hinder. Now, of course, you shouldn't be like extreme. Like, you can be extreme if you are, but know that it's always give and take in a relationship. Sometimes you have to give more and sometimes they have to give more, but making sure there's a balance of it. And so that's why it's a little bit different, because you can have high standards, you can have all your needs and wants met, but also making sure you're meeting theirs as well. It's a give and take in that sense, because no one's ever going to be able to give 100% to you, or vice versa. There has to be a give and take and an understanding. But making sure overall that you know your worth, and that you know that you'll find someone someday, and if it's not right now, it can be in the future. Or if you just want to be single, you can be single. I know it's just really hard right now in the dating world from what I've heard. But also when you are in a relationship, making sure you're able to talk to your partner. I feel like that's always like the number one thing whenever I see couples is just communication styles, or how they don't even have a communication style because there was no foundation being made. And so whenever I see couples, it's usually at that state, or it's at a state of a 10 where, you just come in because everything's dire and everything's kind of urgent. And when it comes to that, in the beginning stages, if you're able to just have that foundation, it's so much easier, obviously, and you might already know that. When I looked back on it, it's actually not as common, because sometimes maybe it's not even in the forefront, which would be hard to believe, because you're like, how can communication not be in the forefront? But it's really like how you communicate, because you're with someone who might communicate something way different. And then maybe you have your first big argument in the first few months and you're like, oh, we have different styles. And then it goes back to, okay, let me learn that person's and let them learn mine. And then we can work through it. And that's like the healthy way to do it. But if you're just kind of like not sure, that's where things get fuzzy of like, oh, we both communicate differently and neither one of us are working on it. So now it's like kind of a cluster. And so making sure like the forefront, one, you feel safe to go to them. Because if you don't feel safe to talk to your partner, then that's already, again, a red flag. Because why would you want to put yourself in a situation where you don't feel comfortable talking to your partner when you're comfortable doing life with this person? And so that's the number one first thing, is making sure you feel comfortable when it comes to that. And the reason why I say that is because, of course, you need to make the foundation. But if you don't have that foundation and you're trying to work on yourself, check in with yourself to make sure and see, do I feel comfortable? And, oh, this isn't good that I don't actually feel safe going to my partner. And then maybe also your partner feels the same way. So it's really, again, a communication style like, oh, we both don't feel this. That's not good. And I know I had a segment prior also about meeting at the table. And so I'm kind of reiterating that also of like, you both should be able to come together and talk about what is wrong or what you're feeling and what they're feeling. And if they kind of just keep coming back and turning things on you or just walking away. And I will say, I do tell clients if they need a second, they should, so things don't get heightened, to walk away, but always to come back and just be like, hey, I was feeling like I was going to say some things I didn't want to say, or I was feeling very cornered, so I just needed a second to breathe. And that's okay, and that's totally understandable. But when it comes to if they are just turning things around on you or gaslighting you or doing any of these things, that's where it's like, okay, this is not a place where I can, one, feel safe, but then two, I'm going to say this a lot, checking in with yourself, because is this something you want to live with and be in the next few months or lifetime with this partner? Because that's where you really have to do internal work. And I think that's the scary part, because it's such a part of the norm. And now that you're trying to break the norm, you're thinking this is going to break the relationship. And that's where a lot of internalization and self-reflection has to look within yourself. And that's the really, again, hard part with any relationship, especially if it's communication styles and especially if it's attachment styles. Because there's no right or loosely used word wrong way. But I think there's always the wrong way would be if it got very abusive and aggressive. I will say, like, I'm not condoning that or anything at all. But if you're not sure how to communicate because no one taught you, or you just know to just be gaslighting in that sense, or more quick to anger because you never knew, is different. Because if you wanted to actually work on it, you could change that. And that's when the part comes into play of, do you see your partner changing when you bring up a topic? And when you bring up a topic that is, for instance, that they need to work on. So if they always leave the room and they don't come back, and you tell them, hey, you left and you didn't tell me you were coming back, and I just need to at least be aware. And if they're like, oh yeah, cool, got it. But then, you guys have another discussion or you have an argument and that keeps happening, that's a sign of a pattern of, oh, they're not listening, or they're not trying, or there's a way of communication that's not being sent through correctly. And when I say that, I mean, I could be saying this to you and you can understand. But if I said this to someone else, they might just be thinking I'm speaking a whole different language. And that might sound crazy, but that's really how relationships kind of work when there's a communication break or there's not a foundation. Because in my professional setting, when I see couples, I always say my main goal in the beginning is, if you tell me one thing, I'm going to try to reframe it in another way to your partner so that they can understand it. Because for some reason, something that you're saying is not going through to them. And so I'm kind of like the interpreter, is what I always say, because especially in the first few sessions, or how long it takes until we build that foundation and communication, like connection and foundation. And so that's what I mean by that it's just not, and that's what I mean by maybe even speaking a different language, because that's how serious sometimes it does get. And that could be, my blind side of maybe people just aren't listening. Maybe they just don't care. But in essence, when it comes to therapy, if you're coming to therapy, I would hope, you'd listen or that it would at least be beneficial to try to listen, But when it comes to private settings in your own home or car or wherever, like it's just the two of you together, then it comes into play of, okay, there's more that could be happening. Maybe they don't care. Maybe they're just not listening. They don't care. Maybe you can get to the extent of there's no respect there, sadly, or fill in blank with anything. But you always want to make sure that you're picking up on yourself so you can kind of protect yourself. And then again, might sound extreme to have to protect yourself from your partner, but not in the sense, hopefully again, not in the sense of like aggression or anger, but more in the sense of protecting yourself mentally, because that's a lot to go through when you're always bickering or that the connections are just not connecting. And that's tolling on anybody, especially if you live with your partner. And then you're just like, well, now we're just always doing the same cycle and the same pattern. How do I break it? And that's the hard part, because of course you love the person that you're with. But if they're having a hard time meeting you at the table and actually being able to hear you, always work on yourself first then, because that's the only thing you can control. Because you can't control what they're feeling or what they're hearing or what they're trying to say to you, but you can only do what you can for yourself. And I've had clients in the past where, because I also see individuals, and I have seen clients in the past where maybe the relationship isn't the best and they don't know if they should leave, if they should stay, and what to do. And I've always come to the front, and I've always been, in general, when I see couples and individuals, I say whatever is best for you. I'm not going to cheer you on to break up, and I'm not going to cheer you on to stay together. I'm going to talk to you guys or talk to you individually, and we're just going to see what happens. And if, let's say I see you guys, if I saw a couple for 6 months, cool, let's see if we can actually work through it. And if I see an individual person outside of the couple, I'm like, cool, let's just work on yourself and then let's just see. Because that's what I tell my individual people of individual, like I don't even see their partner at all when I say that. And they just kind of come to me and just talk about their relationship and their life in general. I always build up we always work on building their confidence, their self-esteem, and all of that in general. And then, they're either like, okay, I'm going to stay with my partner. We're going to work through it. Like, I feel better about myself. Or they're like, I don't see them changing and I'm going to break up with them. And I'm like, cool. And, I could be a little biased and be like, I'm really glad or I'm really sad. But I'm mainly proud when people just work on themselves in general. I'm mainly proud when I see my clients feel confident in themselves and when they feel like, okay, I can hold my ground. Sounds intense, but sometimes like people don't even feel like they have a footing in the ground. So if they just feel like they have a footing, or they can hold their ground and they can actually be okay talking to their partner and actually say their wants and needs, I find that as a win, because sometimes I see people, or I have, that haven't felt like that before. And I also know people and seen people and friends or family and all of these things, because it's so common. And so that's where it's like a really big win for me when I see that happen. And so that's why it's always making sure, going back to the main point of checking in with your mental health and seeing if you want to do this for the long haul, because life is so short, and you can be in love, and it's really hard if you decide to leave the relationship. But life is so short, and you deserve to feel happy and have everything that you want for yourself, but also knowing that you can give the love that you can give to anyone to them. Like, both you and your partner should feel 100% good with each other. And if there's any teetering, that's okay, but just being able to communicate that still. And that's so important in, again, a relationship or a friendship or any of those things. But I also know that it's very much easier said than done. And there's this hard line of what is too much work on myself, because maybe I don't want to leave my partner, but I want to work on myself, but maybe they're not working on themselves. And I know for a fact that if you're working on yourself and you're growing and you're healing wounds and you're, doing the whole 9 yards, but your partner isn't, then one's going to outgrow the other. Will play a factor really of like, okay, I'm doing this work, they're not. And how do I want to navigate that? Because again, it's hard to leave or it's hard to stay sometimes, but just kind of playing that out and seeing what you really want to do. Especially if you have a child with this person, or if you own a house or work with this person or anything, then it's really hard to determine the next steps, especially if you're doing the growth. But I've told friends and family and former clients and clients, anyone that will hear, I'm telling you this now, that if you're working on your growth and your partner, friend, fill in blank isn't, there's going to be a gap. And that's where the foundation communication has to be made and had to talk about that and work on that together. And that's really scary though. But the cool part is that you'll always have you. And I know maybe some people really do not like being by themselves, or they really, again, love their partner, but it's always making sure you're okay first and putting yourself first. Because at the end of the day, what if, your partner is the one that breaks up with you, and then now you didn't work on yourself and there's even more wounds and more baggage. And now you're just in this place where you didn't have to be if you were able to take the steps to, again, I'm saying it a lot, but if you take the steps to work on yourself so you don't feel behind. And I'm not saying you should just work on yourself for the relationship, because you can, because there's things maybe you don't like that you learned about yourself, but mainly just working on old wounds and traumas and communication styles, because that's usually is what's brought in the relationship in general. And you're bringing that in, and you're bringing this other person's also baggage and traumas, and none of it's ever been worked on. It's just going to be a hot mess. And so making sure you really just take the time for yourself, and that you really love yourself, and you know what you want and need and what makes you happy. And I saw this quote that someone said, and I might get it I might butcher it a bit, but it's, if your partner was silent and you only loved them based on their actions, would you still want to be with them, and how would you respond to that? And I thought that was such an interesting quote. I think people really should think about that, because it's something that, I never thought about, or I even imagined. And so maybe that, I don't want to say eye-opening, but maybe it would change a little bit perspective of oh, maybe I don't like certain things that they're doing, and again, that's hard to say because I'm talking about communication. That's mainly my big thing. But I wanted to mention that quote though, because I liked it, and people's actions really show a lot, because you can say it does kind of tie in perfectly actually, because if their actions show differently, then that shows, okay, they're not actually listening, or they're not hearing, or they're not processing what I'm saying. And so I just liked that quote though. And actions speak louder than words, even though my main thing is communication this episode. And so I want to leave that little tidbit with you of seeing how your partner's actions would be if they just didn't say anything. And so I wanted to give that quote to you, because maybe it will change your perspective, or maybe it's something nice to know or hear, because I actually liked hearing it. And so I wanted to leave that tidbit with you guys, because maybe that's something that is eye-opening or might change your perspective. But I liked it, so I wanted to share it because I just saw it somewhere, I'm not sure. And then to wrap up the episode though, and kind of just reiterating everything of making sure you're checking in on yourself, making sure you know your wants and needs, and doing the work regardless if you're in a relationship or not, of knowing how to be okay. And when I say knowing how to be okay, I mean knowing how to be okay in the sense of with a partner, without a partner, knowing how to be okay with yourself and your body in your spirit, in your heart, and all the things, because anything can trigger anything within yourself and how you respond and react and how you feel, all the things. So being okay with yourself first so you can give the love that someone else deserves and that you deserve for yourself. And so that's mainly the summary of the episode. I hope you learned something. Again, sorry if I repeated myself a lot, but I just, repetition is key, and knowing all those things and making sure you're okay coming to the table with your partner and knowing, okay, I'm not. So seeing what really you're okay with and what you're not okay with, because it's your life and you should be able to live the way you want, act the way you want, and do things how you want, to an extent, of course, but especially when it comes to relationships and, again, repetitiveness of what you really need and want. Because again, you shouldn't be not condone, you should not hit anyone or be violent in any sort, but you should be okay to express that you're upset or that, things are not okay. And so that's the main message of working on yourself so you can love yourself and someone else just as much. If you like the video, if you're listening on Spotify, leave a like, leave a review, leave a comment. And again, sorry if it sounded like a lot, but sometimes you just have to hone it in and just say the things that are needed, because it's really so important. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I'll see you guys later.